experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
1, 2, 3, go! Ha ha! Let's get it going. I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Yeah. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Now, don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style again.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast, of course, at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour. When Kimberly Dowdle becomes president of the AIA in just a few weeks, she will be the first black woman in the 166-year history of the American Institute of Architects to fill that coveted post. Architecture, as you may well know, is still among the most overwhelmingly white and male professions in America. So Kimberly Dowdle's ascent to the presidency of this esteemed organization is a big deal. It's a huge deal, and we will celebrate her ascent to the presidency of the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, once we get today to hour 2. In our third hour,
I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, but I am an earthling.
And it's an honor to introduce this woman. She is the most renowned black poets this world has ever seen. There is no you without this goddess.
So you're sort of a prophet.
I would hate to think of myself as being a prophet. Prophets died.
I'm also a dreamer, but I don't understand why my dreams can't come true. So I will continue to do what my grandfather could not do. I will fight. I'm a fighter.
The history of our people is a great history, and it's our duty to tell that story. This is not a poem. This is an explosion. This is a rocket. Let's ride.
So when we last tried to do this, you'll recall Nikki Giovanni was stricken with laryngitis and could not speak, literally. She called me whispering from the hospital to explain that she could not do the show that day. We understood, of course, but she's back and better than ever, and we will finally talk to her today in hour 3 about the new documentary, Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project. But before we commence today's show talking politics and more with the noted economist, leading public intellectual, and the president emerita of Bennett College for Women, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, a quick word about today's scheduled conversation with Jada Pinkett Smith. Yesterday, Jada's handlers called my producers at the last minute to renege on the terms of our conversation about her controversial book, Worthy, which was scheduled and confirmed long ago for today in our second hour. And I read that whole book. Anyway, you know me, I told her handlers to kick rocks. It is disrespectful to black-owned media, and I'm not having it. I am not the one. And so I just wanted you to know around here that we don't promote stuff that's not real. And when there is a legitimate reason for rescheduling, as there was with Nikki Giovanni, we can accommodate our esteemed guests. But ain't nobody got no time for foolishness with Jada's handlers. That said, let's move on with another great show. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Julianne Malveaux back to Tavis Smiley. Doc, how are you today?
I'm great, Tavis. How you doing? I'm sitting here laughing at you.
Why are you laughing?
I'm not. Well, first of all, I'm smiling. You know, Nikki Giovanni and I go way back.
Mm-hmm.
She's a soror. As an undergraduate, I had to pick her up from the airport. I had to. It was my privilege. I don't think it was her privilege to experience my driving, but but we go back. So I'm happy that she's going to be on. I may have to stay on and listen.
Yeah.
With
No, go ahead.
Miss Jada,
Yeah.
I'm just laughing because drama, and trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you put all your business out there and then you don't want to talk about your business.
Yeah.
And then she done talk to everybody else. She done talk to Vanity Fair and anybody who she talks to. Now, why she go diss you?
Yeah, you know.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just laughing because, well, you know, I spent my little 2 years in La La Land.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer political drama.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just put it that way.
Well,
I prefer.
Yeah, as long as you black, you're gonna have some dramas. You might as well have the drama of your choice, right? So in your case.
And a drama I like is a drama that gets some resources to my people.
There you go.
Not the drama that, you know, has these little bitty people. And I'm not talking about Jada personally.
I got you.
I know, but I mean these little bitty people whose egos are leaps and bounds, and they have these revelations. Just mind your business and handle your business. Now, you know, Tavis, I'm old.
Yeah.
So I've always been crazy, and I'm clear about that.
Yeah.
But now that I'm old, I have permission to be crazy. You know, my mama used to always say, you met my mama, she was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But she would say, now that I'm over certain age, I can say whatever I want. Well, I've been doing that since I was about 11.
I'm about to say, yeah. You started earlier in that regard, but since you mentioned Jada, and since you mentioned Nikki Giovanni, we will commence our conversation on those three things. I have thoughts on both and questions about both, given your commentary already, again, about Nikki and about Jada. Let's talk about that first, Nikki and Jada, and then we'll jump into some politics, some economic news, the government shutdown that was averted, the protests last night from pro-Palestinian protesters that shut down Capitol Hill last night, arrest outside the Democratic National Committee building. George Santos just announced moments ago he's not running for re-election after this scathing health ethics report that he did, in fact, use campaign funds, for personal expenses. There's Israel-Hamas. There's a new resolution in the UN. There's a whole lot to get to in this hour with our guest, Dr. Julianne Malveaux. But we'll start talking about Nikki and Jada. You're listening to Julianne Malveaux right now on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac perfection like zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. IQ. This is what I do. Daddy fat in the lag since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I'm here with Lisa Stevens, Senior Business Consultant with Chase for Business. Lisa, what's one tip you'd give to business owners here in the Crenshaw area?
I love that you asked that question. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I grew up in an area that's very similar to Crenshaw. So this is near and dear to my heart. And if I could only leave a business owner with just one, I would tell the business owner to identify their why. And I think that is so important because your why is going to be that strength on those days where you feel like you're struggling. Your why is going to be that stepping stone. Those days that you want to give up, your why is going to be the reason that you get back up.
And how would you advise business owners looking to acquire capital? What do they need to know before stepping inside the branch to ask for funding?
So 3 things. I do want to share this when it comes to the power of capital and just finding those resources. Understand that capital is a 3-part of a business, right? It's not always about the monetary piece, but if you first put that intellectual, right, what do I need to know? That social, who I need to know, that will help you to then package for that monetary piece. So no matter who you're banking with, you should know your banker. Never walk into a bank and you're transactional only.
It's just like Lisa to drop gems. I'm Aisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
All right, I guess it's Dr. Malvo, and as is typically the case, she always says a few things right out the gate that get me going. And so I'm going to get to the stuff that I'd planned to talk about as we move through this hour. But she makes 2 comments here now at the outset of this conversation about Nikki Giovanni and Jada Pinkett that I want to explore. Let's go to Jada first, Malvo. We'll go to the board. Jada Pinkett Smith for 500. We'll do that, and then we'll talk about Nikki, and then we'll get to some politics. So let me go to your Jada comment, because you, as is usually the case, you put your finger right on the button, right on the pulse. And so I tweeted yesterday and made a comment on social media about what happened and my disappointment at Jada's handlers. And I made it very clear. I did not talk to Jada yesterday. Jada and I know each other. She has not reached out to me as yet. But it was her handlers talking to my producers that troubled me. Let me just be frank about this. One, I'm sick of white handlers managing black people. Let me just go right there. I'm sick of white folk handling black talent, and you end up being mishandled by these handlers who don't understand or appreciate black culture, don't understand the respect they ought to have for the black audience, have no regard for black-owned media. Bunch of white handlers doing their job. I ain't mad at that. Jada, Will, any of us have the right. I've had white handlers. We have the right to choose, have a right to self-determination, to choose who works for us and works with us. But you cannot be black and hire white folk who don't respect the craft, don't respect the culture, don't respect the people, and don't respect the nature of what it means to be black-owned. To your point, Malvo, my view is that those white handlers wouldn't have done this to Jimmy Fallon. They wouldn't have done it to Stephen Colbert. They didn't do it to Vanity Fair. They didn't do it to the Today Show or GMA. But when they come to a moment like this, they have no compunction whatsoever about canceling on a black-owned media outlet. I don't like that, number one. But number two, let's just go right at it since you went there. Everybody saw this story. Yeah, you went there. I'm cool with that. Everybody saw the story over the last 48 hours. This old story about this alleged affair, this alleged sexual encounter between Will Smith and Dwayne Martin, Tisha Campbell's ex-husband. That story is an old story in Hollywood. It popped back up again while Jada's on tour. And some have speculated that's why she didn't want to show up. Well, first of all, anybody who knows me knows I don't tread in that kind of nonsense anyway, number one. Number two, it's an old story. I want new stuff. Number three, it's not talked about in the book. The conversation was about what she wrote in her book. Number four, the book is about her life. It's not about Will. It's her story. It's her truth. So that would never even come up in our conversation today because it's not a part of the book that I spend my time reading to have a conversation about. I don't tread in that kind of nonsense. So they ended up sort of playing themselves by trying to pull out and renegotiate the terms of our conversation, and I wouldn't have gone there anyway. I'll stop for a second and let you respond to that part, and we'll keep going, Julianne.
You know what, Tavis? I'm just laughing.
Yeah.
All y'all Hollywood folks are freaks. I ain't at nothing I hear who did who and who's zooming who, and I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in my life, And in my space, I care about basically what happens to black people.
Yes.
So if somebody did diddle somebody or whatever, fine, go with God. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So I didn't even hear that, but I don't really care. And nobody should care. Nobody should care about these people's business, but they should not be putting their business out there.
Yeah.
What I ticked off about, and you and Roland, y'all right. Black-owned media deserves the same respect that you give any other media. So if you're going to go talk your business to the Today Show, why not talk your business to Tavis Smiley or Roland Martin? Do not disrespect these brothers who built their platform against all odds and with all kinds of disrespect. Both you and Roland have had to deal with all kinds of disrespect from mainstream media. And you've come back creating your own platform. So I forgot to say to Jada's handlers, shame on her. But you know what, Tavis? This is not unique to entertainment. Why we've seen so many black political figures fall is because they go to the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. DNC says, I'm going to help you, but here's your white handler. And the white handler does not know black people. So in North Carolina, they gave a white handler to this sister who was great. I worked with her when I was at Bennett. But when she got the white handler didn't want to talk to black people. So guess what? She lost.
Yep.
And we can go the brother in Wisconsin, same thing. You got white folks who don't know how to talk to black folks.
Mandela Barnes. Mandela Barnes is his name.
Exactly. Yeah. And he could have won that thing. He could easily have won that thing. But no, DNC gives him some stupid-ass white boy. Excuse my language. I'm trying not to curse. I'm getting old, Tavis, so I try not to curse, but it's not working out too well.
I'm praying for you. I saw a T-shirt the other day I'm going to buy for you, and the T-shirt said, I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. I'm gonna buy that shirt for you, Malvo.
My morning prayers, Lord, thank you for getting me up this morning. I ain't cussed nobody out. Now, Lord, get me out of bed.
I'm praying for you, Malvo. I'm praying for you. I take your point. You're right. It's not unique to entertainment. But one last question about Jada, and we'll move on to Nikki, and then some other political stuff. But this, I am concerned about this frame that we are in. And it's not just Jada. Jada is the most recent example of we're living in this era where people just overshare. It's just too much oversharing. Ain't nobody asked you about all the stuff that's going on inside your marriage with Will. Marriage is there's a sanctity, at least I've always believed, around the issue of marriage. And there's just too much oversharing, telling me all the stuff that goes on in your household. That's really none of my business, number one. And number two,
nobody.
Yeah, and I didn't ask you to share it. So from your perspective, what's up with this notion of people just living in a moment right now where everybody is oversharing?
Tavis, I think that our total culture is breaking down. Just break it down. I don't want to know your business. Why do you want me to know your business? Do you need to sell books that bad? Is there something else? I think that Jada is a beautiful, wonderful, spiritual sister. There's a lot of stuff that she can share without going up into her marriage.
Yep.
She might be able to do some 10 tips to keep your marriage together without giving up all Will's business, which may or may not be true, by the way. But you got these children, these young people, they tweet every meal they eat. I don't care about what you ate.
I'm just laughing because I'm trying to think of the last time I was in a restaurant and I didn't see somebody taking a picture of their food. I laugh every time I see that. Like I'm trying to get to the meal, right? I'm trying to get this stuff in my stomach, and everybody around me is taking pictures of what they're eating. Who cares?
I went to dinner with a group of 8 people last week. They were mostly young people. There were a couple of people who are elders like me, but they mostly, and they sit there taking pictures of their food. And then one of them said, "Can I take pictures of your food?" I said, "No, you cannot take pictures. Why do you want to take pictures of my food?" And the girl said, "Because it looks so good." I said, "Sit your ass back down." Excuse me, cursing again. I said, "Sit your ass back down." What's wrong with you people? help me out with this. But it's almost like a collective validation of your living. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just glad I'm old.
Yeah.
Because I cannot understand the need to share everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It is not necessary. Keep something to yourself.
Yeah. And the fascinating thing is, one last thing on Jada, we'll move forward. And let me just say this. I think you're right about what's happening in our culture. I was saying to somebody just yesterday that we are living in a moment, at least as I see it, where we are experiencing a devolution of our culture, a decay of our civilization, and not just using Jada as an example. We can go straight to Israel and Hamas and all the other issues we're going to talk about in this hour, but there's a devolution of our culture that we're experiencing right now, a decay of our civilization, and ought to concern every single one of us. That said, what's fascinating about the Jada book, my final point on this, is that I read that book. And to your brilliant point of a moment ago, and you didn't know this because you ain't read the book yet, but there's so much other richness in that book. I mean, the book is really about her life and growing up in Baltimore and all that she endured. There's so much other stuff in that book that I wanted to tease out. There's so many other fascinating and amazing stories that she tells in that book that I wanted to get her take on, because everybody's focused on the Will stuff, but it's not a small book. It's a dense text, and there's a lot of good stuff in there that I really wanted to get into. And so I think that in that regard, Jada's handlers again made a mistake, because I think my audience knows I've been at this for a long time. My way is always different than everybody else's way. I don't want to tread the path that everybody else has worn, well worn already. There's a lot of stuff in that book I wanted to get to, and so we'll see if somewhere down the road that conversation happens. If it does, thank God for Jesus. If it doesn't, life goes on. But I want to just basically explain to our audience, as I said moments ago, that I don't sell wolf tickets. If I tell you somebody's booked and they're coming on, they will be here. And if there's a legitimate reason to reschedule, we will do that. Not a problem. But calling me at the last minute, trying to renegotiate terms of the conversation, that we're not having that. Now, enough of... Yeah.
Tavis, I'm curious.
Sure.
Tavis, what were the terms that they were trying to renegotiate?
So the short answer is I don't like people telling me what I can't ask about, what I can't talk about, especially if I wasn't going there anyway, and I sort of, hinted at that earlier. I'm not trying to go that direction anyway, but you don't have the right to tell me what I can't talk about. If you want to do a conversation, let's do a conversation. But you know my style. You know who I am. You know how I roll. And so you have to respect the fact that I'm always going to put you in your best light and make you look your best. I'm not here to tear anybody down. But one, don't be telling me what I can and can't talk about. That does not work for me. I'm not the one. That's the first thing. The second thing is we agreed to an hour conversation. So now don't come back trying to negotiate a 7 or 10 minute conversation. No. We agreed. We talked about you coming in studio. We talked about an hour conversation. And so those terms are already locked in. And so don't call me again the day before thinking that I'm so desperate to talk to Jada, or that you have such an upper hand that I won't back out of a conversation. So I just told him to kick rocks. That's not what we agreed to. We're not doing it that way. And if Jada changes her mind, she knows I'm here for her. I love her. I respect her. Happy to hear her truth. And so be it. So there's the answer to the question that you just asked. Now let me move. I want to get quickly this Nikki Giovanni story, because I'm fascinated by that. I love Nikki. You love Nikki. I'm looking forward to our conversation today with her in our third and final hour. But in the 3 minutes I have now before we move forward here, tell me about picking her up as a student. I mean, when you shared that story, I'm thinking of all of, or certainly some of my heroes. I would have died if I'd ever had the opportunity to pick Dr. King up at the airport, or other folk I've known. And certainly I've had that opportunity with people I adore and respect, like Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte. Those moments always mean so much to me when I get a chance to spend private time with them. As a young person, a young sister no less, what was it like being able to be the person to pick Nikki up at the airport?
Well, first of all, I had to cut people to get the opportunity.
I'm sure. I'm certain of that.
Well, I was so in awe of her. I was born in the Congo. I mean, I was so in awe of her. And as you probably forgot, but may remember that I started as a writer, as a poet.
Mm-hmm.
My first published piece was in the Black Scholar, but the second big piece I did was in Essence, and it was a poem called Black Love is a Bittersweetness. So I fashioned myself as a poet, and I still kind of try to play that, but I really don't. But anyway, I was totally in awe. I did everything wrong, like double parked, and put my flashes on and cut some policeman off who said he can't do that. I didn't want, this was 72, I think, or maybe free. And I didn't, of course, I didn't want to have her waiting 1 minute. And this was before all that security. So I just stopped my car and double parked. Because, I'm bodacious and audacious. I'm like, well, I don't want her to have to walk all the way to the parking lot, so I'm just going to stop here. And, we had the best conversation because, I love her dearly. I mean, I've always loved her dearly. And so it was mind-blowing for me. Mm-hmm. But she is mind-blowing. She's brilliant. She's amazing. We're together maybe 3 years ago at Bus Boys in Southeast. Mm-hmm. Pictures, I'll send you one. I just think that she is one of the most amazing human beings that the Lord put on this earth. Yes. And I was happy to have exposure to her early on. I'll make you laugh, Tavis. I joined the morning meditation ministry at my church because I decided I do want to go to heaven.
Yeah, you need that. You need that ministry. Go ahead. No,
I do want to go to heaven. I mean, God forgives everything. So, but anyway, in the process, next week I'm doing a meditation called Memories, and she came up. So it's so like whatever that you mentioned that you're having her today because she came up and I went and looked at a picture and Andy Shalal and I talked a little bit about the time she was at Bus Boys with her last book. And she is someone I hold afar as just like a shining superstar. Yeah. I feel very blessed to have had people like her and Maya and Dr. Hyde in my life. Yeah. And I know that all of them probably, Dr. Hyde just would look at me and shake her head like, really?
But you've been blessed to be in their space. They were blessed to be in your space. And the beautiful thing is that you paid it forward. As president of Bennett College for Women and all the other things you've done in your career and continue to do, you are paying it forward. And that's the way it's supposed to work. So it's a beautiful thing. But I'm glad you shared a bit of that story about Nikki. I look forward to talking to her again today. I've been blessed to talk to her so many times, as you know, in my career. But I'm looking forward to today's conversation about the new documentary about her life and legacy called Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project. But now, we continue when we come forward, our conversation with Julianne Malveaux. A lot of political stuff to get to. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Park with love. This is Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A bill to fund the government and avoid a shutdown is headed to President Biden's desk. The Senate passed the bill in an 87-11 vote yesterday, with just 60 votes needed to pass. In the House, Speaker Mike Johnson was able to see the measure pass with mostly Democratic votes after dozens of Republicans opposed the plan due to a lack of spending cuts. The mother of a 6-year-old Virginia boy who shot his teacher earlier this year will spend 21 months in prison following her sentencing yesterday. Deja Taylor, who is black, pleaded guilty in June to federal charges of using drugs while owning a gun and lying about her drug use when buying the gun. The charges were prompted by the January shooting of an elementary school teacher in Newport News. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free and helps motorists easily find fast track and roadside assistance services. Visit go511.com or dial 511 on your phone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A dismal night for the Lakers at Crypto.com. They lose at home by 15 to the Sacramento Kings. The Lakers committed 23 turnovers. 11 of those turnovers belong to LeBron and Anthony Davis. Get ready to hear some talk in the streets about the Lakers making a trade. The Lakers reportedly are one of 4 teams interested in swinging a deal for Chicago Bulls guard Zach LaVine. The former UCLA star is not happy in Chicago. The Bulls are off to a 4-8 start. We'll keep you updated on this development. Golden State's Draymond Green was suspended for the 5th time in his career. This time, the NBA sat him down for 5 games for putting Minnesota center Rudy Gobert in a chokehold Tuesday night. The suspension will cost Green $1.36 million. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
When breaking news happens, keep it locked to KBLA Talk 1580.
So pleased to announce that the 43rd mayor of the city of Los Angeles is on the phone. Mayor Karen Bass, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Dominique?
Good. You must be incredibly swamped right now, and I appreciate you checking in. It's indefinitely what we're hearing, that the 10 freeway to be down?
Yes, that is the case. All of those travel apps, pay attention to those. As we get information, they've been uploaded right away. So those maps should be accurate. But we actually are trying to tell people to stay on freeways, to follow the route, because our streets can't handle 300,000. Yeah. Our streets would be parking lots. There is metro, there is public transportation. So they're increasing the frequency of trains and increasing the frequency of buses. So you can go to 511 and learn about metro. You can go to emergency.lacity.gov to learn about any information on the city. This is a time for all of us to stay together. We're trying every avenue possible. That's why it's so important that you reached out, Dominique. Always want to make sure that the KBLA audience is up to speed.
Mayor Karen Bass, thank you so much. Godspeed.
All right, thank you.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
If you're a veteran with a service-connected disability that is directly impacting your ability to work, resources are available to help you find employment. VA's Veteran Readiness and Employment, or VR&E, can assist you with finding a job that uses your existing skills. Or, if you're interested in exploring a new field, a VR&E counselor can help you determine the right education or training options for a new career. Find out if VR&E is right for you by visiting va.gov/VRE today.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Thinking about hosting a podcast and don't know where to start? Morris Media Studios has you covered. We're a professional podcast and voiceover studio located in Leimert Park. We specialize in recording and live streaming audio and video podcasts. Let us help you set up, record, and distribute your podcast. Hosting a podcast is a great way to bring awareness to your business, product, or good cause. For more info, visit morrismediastudios.com or give us a call at 323-815-4204.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and our guest, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, President Emerita of Bennett College for Women, a noted public intellectual, brilliant MIT-trained economist. And now that we've talked about Nikki and Jada, let's get to some politics.
Absolutely.
I want to start with this. There's a story breaking right now that there are a number of Starbucks employees, Starbucks workers who are literally walking out today. And they're complaining about a number of things, including all of these special event days, these cup giveaways, et cetera, that Starbucks does, and puts extra work on the staff that is already understaffed and underpaid to begin with. But here's another example in this not just summer of strikes that we had, Julianne, but now this season of strikes that continues where American workers are raising their backs. Today, it's Starbucks workers walking out. Your thoughts?
Workers are believed. We do not respect workers. Employers do not pay workers. And workers have never had the leverage that they have right now. Right now, the leverage that workers have is that there are labor shortages. In other words, they're scrambling for workers. Why don't you pay the ones you have a little more money?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got these signs every place you go. And everybody uses it as an excuse, Tavis, which gets on my very last nerve. As an excuse, oh, well, we have a labor shortage. I went to a restaurant earlier this week, and it took them 45 minutes to bring my appetizer.
Mm.
Of course, you know, I raised high holy hell, and I actually had got up and was getting ready to leave and put $12 on the table for my glass of wine.
Mm.
When the manager came out, he said, well, we have a labor shortage. And I told him, I said, dude, pay people. Then you won't have a labor shortage.
Mm.
So, I mean, predatory capitalism allows you to extract surplus value from people. And workers have had enough. They're walking out of nursing homes, even though they care about the people they take care of. They're walking out of Starbucks where they don't give a bluff about the people they take care of because, like you said, every time you turn around, it's a free this, a free that. So I don't even understand the Starbucks model. People, well, I want a coffee with, like, this cream and this. Just have some effing coffee. You know, I mean, and you got to have this kind of latte and this kind of foam. I mean, please do that spit at home. Yeah, like I said, you know, I'm a curmudgeon. I was always one. I've gotten worse. But, you know, you stand behind someone in Starbucks and they're like, and then I need 1 squirt of this and 2 squirts of that. You is a squirt. Move.
Okay, okay, now. Hey, people have a right to self-determination. If they want all that stuff in their coffee, that's their business, Julianne.
Well, then pay more.
Yeah, okay. All right. I take your point. Pay the people more money. All right. Let me move on. We now see breaking news again today that New Hampshire has decided that they are going to defy the Democratic Party and have the nation's first primary on January 23rd anyway. As you know, Joe Biden and company wanted to push South Carolina to the top of the list. Why? Because there are a lot more black folk in South Carolina, not to mention that black folk in South Carolina, black women in particular, saved his candidacy there. But beyond that, a legitimate argument was made, and I accept the argument, that we need to put states up front that more reflect the breadth and depth of diversity in this country, and New Hampshire does not do that. But New Hampshire has said today they don't care. They're going forward. They're defying the Democratic Party, and they will be the first primary on January 23rd. Your take on that?
Well, New Hampshire and Iowa are two of the whitest states in the country. So that they should have the first primaries suggests to me that there's still an undercurrent of white supremacy in our country. The white folks get the first say. And the fact is that how people do in New Hampshire and Iowa does determine often the viability of their campaign. So there are 3 challenges here, Tavis. Number 1 is for the mainstream media to diminish the role that Iowa and New Hampshire have, and especially Iowa. This caucus thing, I mean, you've been there, I've been there. Mm-hmm. It's that scientific. Mm-hmm. I mean, you walk around like cattle herding from here to here to here to here to here. So that's number 1. So the mainstream media has a responsibility. Number 2, I get that New Hampshire in their state constitution actually says that they should be the first. That's called caucasity. Mm-hmm. That is called utter caucasity. All we white folks go be first. Mm-hmm. And again, that's a myth that needs to be busted. Yeah. But number 3, and most importantly, whether you're in New Hampshire, Iowa, or wherever else, people need to be ginned up to vote. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are sitting in a situation where the orange man has told you what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. He said he'll do if he's reelected. Let's look at the demographics of our nation. Not just black and brown.
Yeah.
And, everybody brown ain't down. But the fact is that to have these pivotal primaries in mostly white states is to exclude everybody else.
Yep. Since you mentioned young folk, let me follow you right quick. Just watching my time here. I want to move through a few other things quickly here. It was a bunch of young folk last night outside the DNC, the Democratic National Committee headquarters, who were protesting this war between Israel and Hamas, specifically calling for a ceasefire immediately. I should also add to that for the first time since this war began, the U.S. Late yesterday evening did not move to block a UN resolution calling for humanitarian pauses in these strikes from Israel inside Gaza. But what was significant about the U.S. Not blocking the resolution is the first time it's a resolution put forward that did not condemn the Hamas attacks. So it suggests that the Biden administration is starting to move just a little bit. They're starting to hear those footsteps in the dark, to quote the Isley brothers. But it's primarily these young people who are driving this conversation and expressing their angst about the way that they see the Biden administration mishandling this. That's a long way of asking your read on this moment, at least, because the story changes every 5 minutes. Your read right now on how the Biden administration is succeeding or failing with regard to this policy on Israel.
I frankly think the Biden administration is failing. I'll tell you, last week, about a week and a half ago, I was coming home, and you know where I live, right downtown D.C., and a group of young people, very multicultural group, a couple Palestinians with the Yasser Arafat scarves on, a couple brothers. Anyway, very diverse group. They had the Palestinian flag, so I stopped to talk to them, and they had come from the March on Washington. And two of the Palestinian sisters were very firm. They're like, I will never vote for Joe Biden again. And I said, why? And they said they felt betrayed. When I watch CNN, which I have on my house 24/7, I feel betrayed because they're always giving us some story of who's accused, whose son is a hostage. But what about the 10,000 Palestinians who lost their lives? Who's telling their story? And I think that while I get Biden's support of Israel, I don't get the deafness to the Palestinian plight. And I think that's what these young people are so angry about, is a deafness of their plight. Yeah. And they deserve to be heard. If you want to tell me about somebody whose child was killed because they were hostage, tell me about a Palestinian child who was killed because Israel put a airstrike on a home. How dare they actually, I tilt Palestinian, but I understand both sides. But how dare you tell people to move south and then you bomb a refugee camp in the south?
Nope. I take your point, and that's what these young people were protesting last night. There were tons of arrests last night on Capitol Hill, and so the Biden administration, at some point, as I keep saying, is going to have to utter that phrase, ceasefire, or de-escalation. I think they're getting pushed there. I don't know how much longer they can withhold calling on this ceasefire or de-escalation, but they haven't done it as yet. When we come forward, since she went to Kamala, I got a question for her about Kamala, since she raised that. And there will be no government shutdown, at least not this week, thanks to the Senate sending a bill to the president to sign to keep the government open at least for a few more weeks. We'll get her take on that. You can't talk to a brilliant MIT-trained economist without talking about the economy. More with Julianne Malveaux when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Julianne Malveaux. Dr. Malveaux, watching my time is getting real tight here. Let me ask you right quick about the government shutdown that we have averted, at least for this week. There is a two-step process. The Senate approved the House Speaker Mike Johnson's bill, and so President Biden can sign that now and keep the government open, at least for the moment. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we have a segregationist in the House. That's Mike Johnson. He's a Louisianan who says he is a, what does he call himself, a Christian evangelical. We know what that means. We know what the Christian evangelicals did to Dr. King. However, he's played Mr. Bojangles real well right now. He's doing just what McCarthy did, and he's given himself another maybe 6 weeks of time because the time passes. And right now, we're saying that government will stay open until until January, I believe, 19th. Mm-hmm. And there's a second bump stop of February 2nd. He's giving himself time to try to mollify everybody. I don't know that he's going to be able to do it. The blessing is, I want to know who the 11 senators are, and that came out last night, so I didn't look it up yet. 11 senators voted against the House package. And so now they averted this holiday shutdown, but they're going into January.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is be careful, Tavis, because what we know, one of the proposals, as an example, will cut Head Start by 80%. What they put in first is the most essential things. What they put in second is education and social services. And so expect that if Marjorie Taylor Greene and her ilk have their way, we will see some serious challenges. And government may well shut down.
Yeah. Let me ask you right quick what your read on the economy is right now. I was just reading a story this morning in the New York Times, a good story about the fact that more economists, after ignoring it for years, not Julianne Malveaux, of course, but these other economists have ignored this issue of income inequality and economic immobility and poverty for years. But now all these economists are writing books now on inequality. They don't have a solution to it yet, but they're at least starting to pay attention to it. What do you make of that right quick, and what's your read on the economy in this moment?
The economy is okay. It's not great. It's okay. Inflation is down. Employment is steady. I don't think that, but however, I tell my black people, stack your money, y'all. Mm-hmm. Just stack your money because you don't know what's going to happen. And it's very, very volatile. Jerome Powell is watching inflation. If it ticks back up, he's going to play with the interest rate. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, all of a sudden they're thinking about inequality. I crack up, Tavis, when I look at some of this stuff. Myself and a bunch of folks have been writing about this for years.
Yep.
Nobody pays attention to us, and they still don't pay attention to us. That's why I'm thinking about y'all.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is the inequality issue is going to drown us because there are more poor people than rich people in this country. Congress, the Senate, they have accommodated rich people, ignored not poor and working class people. And who's working class anymore? Working class is like you making $80,000.
Yeah, nope. That would be laughable if it weren't so serious. Our remaining moments with Julianne Malveaux when we come forward, and we'll talk about Kamala since she raised it. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with Kate Luzio, former banking executive and now owner of Luminary, who partnered with Chase for this tour. She makes it her business to build community for business owners.
Yes, so I was a banker for 20 years before I decided to become an entrepreneur. 7 of those years were actually at JP Morgan Chase. One of the biggest things that I had going into my entrepreneurial journey was a big background in banking.
So what advice are you giving business owners looking for financial backing today?
So Chase brings in so much knowledge and the opportunity to understand what financial tools are out there for business owners to build, grow, and scale their business. A lot of business owners will say, well, I need to get a loan immediately. Well, you wouldn't just lend money to your friend if you didn't know why they needed it. I tell every business owner, you need a business plan, you need financial projections, you need a banker. Because you have to start building a relationship with a banker so that they get comfortable with how you're going to build that business and so that they can eventually support you in different ways.
Makes sense. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
All right, Julianne Malveaux, you raised it and said you'd talk about it if I went there, and you sort of teed up your own critique of Kamala Harris. Let me just do this right quick. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago when these numbers came out. These are Kamala's net favorability numbers versus past vice presidents. She's at a negative 11 as compared to Mike Pence, negative 12.7 as compared to Joe Biden, a negative 31 as compared to Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, and a negative 44.9 against Al Gore. I know all that's been done to go after her. Republicans tried to defund her office the other day. So they've been ugly when it comes to Kamala, no doubt about that. And yet the conversation persists that she's a drag on this ticket, and there are a lot of folk pressuring Joe Biden quietly to replace her with somebody else for the re-election bid. That said, the last 2 minutes belong to you.
Joe Biden is not going to replace her. Many of the critiques of her are very racist and sexist. I do think she needs better handling. I'm here in Washington, and I do think she needs better handling. But I think she's clearly no less competent than, let's say, an Al Gore or Mike Pence. It's going to be a very challenging period, and I'm not sure what's going to happen because it's not just about Kamala. People's questions about Brother Biden are persistent.
Mm-hmm.
Is he, is he too old? Because, see, the underlying question is if his old behind, something happens to him, will this black woman be the president of the United States? And so that's why I think that we need to be very careful as we look at these critiques of Kamala. Are they critiques of Kamala? Are they racist and cultural, sexist critiques of black women in positions of power? And that's been happening, Tavis, not since Kamala came onto the scene as VP, but for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
People do not respect black women.
Yep.
And so for those of us who do respect black women, we acknowledge the issues and the complaints, but we keep it moving.
Yep. There you have it. Speaking of powerful black women, we're going to talk in just moments with Kimberly Dowdle, who is making some history as the first black woman to head the American Institute of Architects, the AIA. It's been around 160 plus years. And finally, a black woman in this white male-dominated industry is the president of AIA. We're going to celebrate her in just moments. For now, we celebrate Dr. Julianne Malveaux. Always thank her for her keen political insights. No more brilliant economists in the country, MIT-trained economist. President Emerita of Bennett College for Women and all-around noted public intellectual. Julianne, appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon. All the best to you.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Thank you. Up next, Kimberly Dowdle, and our third hour today, Nikki Giovanni. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A bill to fund the government and avoid a shutdown is headed to President Biden's desk. The Senate passed the bill in an 87-11 vote yesterday, with just 60 votes needed to pass. In the House, Speaker Mike Johnson was able to see the measure pass with mostly Democratic votes after dozens of Republicans opposed the plan due to a lack of spending cuts. The mother of a 6-year-old Virginia boy who shot his teacher earlier this year will spend 21 months in prison following her sentencing yesterday. Deja Taylor, who is black,